Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of Inner Geek with Withasideofgeek. This is David, aka Geek Commander, and today we have with us Chuck, owner of this lovely comic book shop. So Chuck, why don't you tell us a little bit about what defines you as a geek?
Probably what defines me as a geek is being owner of the Dark Side Comics for the last 20 years.
All right. What brought you towards comic books?
I had a buddy in college who he would hit a local comic book store and they would do these 10 for $1 or 50% off bins. And so he'd take $10, grab a bunch, and then bring them back to the dorm rooms and actually residence halls. And he would just throw them on the floor and then we would read them. And I think near the end of my college career, I got a job at a local comic book store and was having just graduated with a business degree. It was really weird watching this guy run his business the way that he ran his business. He was the only place in town, but he didn't seem too concerned about customer loyalty or happiness.
Oh, really?
And so we just kind of broke off and did our own thing.
Cool. And that's what brought you here?
That was 20 years ago, and now we're here.
All right. Also, I wanted to ask what your feelings are towards how Marvel and DC have portrayed the comic books in the movies that we've seen.
I think they've done a good job. There's 50 years of history, and they've got to try to fit a story into 2 hours. Like the third Batman from the Nolan series was a combination of the storyline where Bane breaks Batman's back, and then the Blackgate storyline and the whole Cataclysm, which in that storyline Gotham City's annexed by the rest of the United States while it's going through its little inner turmoil. So a lot of times you get people coming in going, hey, where's the comic book that's like the movie? And that's not really the case. But to trying to cram a lot of history into interesting stories in a 2-hour period, I think they've both done a great job.
Cool.
They've had some failures, but for the most part, they've done a great job.
Absolutely. And I know that the issue is always, do they stick to the comic books? And I know we've seen in some of the movies they have, but in some of the movies they changed it up to make their own adaptations as far as the characters and all that. Who would you say is maybe your favorite character in either Marvel or DC?
Oh, my favorite character is Batman. I think he's the most believable. He no superpowers from this earth. Maybe, it's a super, super stretch, but he would be the closest. You get some rich kid in his early 20s, can travel the world, learns to do some training, and I think he's the most believable. Really? Not that they're all superheroes, so they're certainly out there in the stretch of believability, but for the most part, nobody from another planet, not bitten by a radioactive spider, or so to me, I like him the best.
Now, we're getting a little closer towards Comic-Con, and I know I've been going to Comic-Con for the last few years, and from what I always hear on the streets is it's not what it used to be, say, 10 years ago, Yeah,
it's gotten more of a media, it seems like more of a press junket for TV shows and films and things like that, where the comic book part of it seems to be shrinking, and they seem to be attracting the general public with appearances from people in the Twilight films or the Harry Potter stuff at that time, or I think they announced Legend of the Crystal Skulls when that was happening. And so my understanding is there's one in Seattle now that happens every year, and that's kind of has a real San Diego circa 1993-ish feel, where it's really about the comic books and the artists and those. I would think with the coverage that San Diego gets on television, stuff like that, I'm going to say it's, the majority of the people there aren't interested in comic books. Yeah. Specifically comic books. Maybe comic book related merchandise, but they aren't there to go to buy comic books. And not like in the early 90s where you're looking to fill lists in your collection and you're hoping to get a book signed or a sketch from your favorite artist.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you because, if you've ever been to Comic-Con, you do notice there's maybe 2 or 3 big comic book stands, and that's about it. And they always seem to keep the artist and the towards the back, in a corner somewhere where you got all these other big media companies stacked up in the middle, where that's the first thing you see when you walk in. But tell me, what do you think is something that maybe Comic-Con can do as far as to maybe show a little more support
Well,
for the comic books?
I mean, for them, it's about the dollar. So if I'm called the San Diego Comic-Con, but my ultimate goal is I need to sell my tickets. And so I don't know that it's their responsibility as much to do things to foster the kind of comic book reading. I mean, to me, I feel like that responsibility falls more on Marvel and DC. You'd like to see them handle it like McDonald's does, or Chevrolet, one of these major companies. It's like, look, we don't care where you buy our products. Go out and buy our products, because they know at some point they're going to see that. But you don't see anything at the end of films, in the cartoons, where it's like, did you like what you just saw? Do you want to read more about it? Go visit your local comic book shop. Absolutely. So you'd like to see them advertise a little more to get people, and then maybe gear a line of books towards a younger audience that saves, go back to the old newspaper, because now it's on the glossy paper, but go back to the old newspaper type paper and make the comics 99 cents or $1.50, something that they can kind of afford, so you can plant the seed, and then when they come back in their mid to late 20s, they have jobs, disposable income. They're like, oh man, I remember doing this when I was a kid, and now they can kind of enjoy it a little better, because it's certainly geared towards an older audience. I mean, the stigma that comics had for the longest time was that it was for kids, and it's definitely not for kids.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. Tell us maybe what have been some of your favorite series in comic books or storylines that you've read.
My favorite is probably, there's a lot of them, but maybe because of the recency effect, because I've read that the most recent, but Identity Crisis is probably my favorite. I think what I really enjoyed about that story was that they could go back and insert a piece of history that we didn't know about, and how that moment kind of clarifies a character's behavior that you've been reading for the last 25 years. I thought was amazing. Like how they could come up with a story that would justify this character's behavior, I thought was amazing. So to me, it's the one story that we sell in the comic book shop that, as a trade paperback, if you don't like it, you can bring it back and I'll give you your money back. Most of the time we don't. Your fear is someone's going to read something and then want to bring it back and try to get their money back or get another book instead. But this is the first book. If you come back and you tell me, or the only book, you come back and tell me you don't like it, then I'll give you your money back. But I've yet to have anybody who, people have liked it to different degrees, and maybe I hype it up too much, but to me it's and the character in question is Batman. As a Batman fan, it was probably one of the best stories I've ever read.
Cool, definitely. Now, why don't you tell us what days and what times your shop is
We're
open?
here Wednesday through Sunday, noon to 7, and then on Sunday it's like 12:30 to 2:30, depending on the foot traffic. If I have lots of traffic here, then sometimes I'm here till 4 or 5 o'clock on Sunday. All right. If it's last Sunday of the month or it's kind of slow, then I'll cut out right at 2:30. But anybody can call, and if you let me know that you're on your way down, then I certainly can hang out and wait for somebody to show up.
All right, and we'll put the number down below so you can have that as well as a reference. So now that's going to do it for us here at Withasideofgeek. We thank you for following us, and we thank Chuck for opening his door so that we can come and do this little interview.
Thanks for having me.
And make sure you come and visit. He's located here on District Boulevard. And check it out, buy a few comic books, and let him know that Withasideofgeek sent you. All right? Thank you again, and you guys have a great day.